What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Franchise Empire newsletter live stream, where we bring you some of the latest and hottest franchise opportunities and break them down for you. Today, we are going to cover a resale for only $150,000 with a proven brand. We'll talk about Tropical Smoothie. Have you ever driven by or been in a Tropical Smoothie and wondered how much they cost to get open, how much money do they generate in terms of sales, what type of fees do they charge, and is it a good investment? Well, we're going to break down all of those numbers for you today. And we'll talk about a couple of other things as well, some clients that we've worked with recently, as well as what was surprisingly a very popular video around a tool truck franchise. So before we do that, I've got an important message that we need to share with you first. All right, if you're new here, my name is Tarek Johnson. I'm the CEO and founder of Franchise Empire, and I'm here with our head of brokerage, Mr. Mark Magerman. Good to see you, man.
You too, Tarek. Good to see you. Let's get going. Let's get started to get some good information here today.
Yeah, let's rock and roll. Let me make sure I got the banner up and going. Let's see. So, guys, if you don't get this newsletter, we send this out. That's why it says in 5 minutes or less. That's if you're reading the newsletter. If you're attending this one, it's not 5 minutes.
Yeah, I tend to be a little bit wordy. I don't think if you only gave me 5 minutes to speak, I'd have to probably pass. I don't think I could accomplish that.
I'd have to probably pass. That's funny. But you guys can go to franchiseempire.com/newsletter, and you'll get this a whole entire newsletter in your inbox on Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Let's talk about our featured resale. So this featured resale, the information that we have on it, we'll keep it pretty short and simple overall. It's in Southeast Florida. It's a home service business. The asking price is $150,000, and the trailing 12-month of gross sales is $258,000. So, Mark, we don't have a tremendous amount of information here because sometimes we get limited information from the franchisors or the sellers. But any thoughts on this one?
I guess what I would say is I like it when you're looking at resales and they present it as a trailing 12-month number instead of an annual number. I think what that means is, and again, if you don't know, trailing 12 months, ideally in this case would be November 1 of 2024 through October 31, 2025, right? That would be the trailing 12 months. What that means, it's just more accurate, timely sales figures, as opposed to in 2024, they did $258,000, because that would beg the question, well, where are they year to date in 2025? So that's a real, I always think that there's more credibility in the trailing 12-month numbers. I think there's more to do with that. Not much else we can make a decision on based on that. But again, the asking price would be a multiple of the profit generated from this business. So if they're asking 150 and the gross sales are 258, it would lead me to think it's a relatively high margin business. If they're trying to get 150, if the 258 puts out 10% margin, that's 25,000. There's no way you're going to justify the figure. So my guess is it's a pretty healthy margin business.
Interesting.
Even though the sales figures are low.
Yeah, I think I'm guessing the opposite, actually, that this is one of those instances where, someone's got the asset developed at $258,000 in sales. I can't imagine it's doing much, although there are some businesses where you can still produce a margin on that. And it depends on how you have it structured too. If you're an owner operator, if you have a staff, if you have a team, et cetera. But, I've seen in many instances where there's kind of a floor of a sales price, even if the business is not making money or even losing money. I'd be curious actually if that was one of the situations here as well.
Well, hopefully somebody listening will ask us to do a check on it and we'll be able to find that out, because one of us is right.
Yes, that is absolutely true. That was a great segue. You're such a natural, Mark.
So again, one of us, and it could be that you're right. And again, when they show you the trailing 12 months, to me, that's the click that they are growing this business, that it's growing over time. It's again, we would see. And why don't we just tell everybody listening to be determined on who's right or who's wrong on this one?
Yeah, right. Well, guys, if you're interested in learning more about this resale specifically and being able to get the profit and loss statement and more of the nitty gritty of the numbers to understand the story behind the sale and the opportunity, go to franchiseempire.com/resales. We have an inventory of over 100 resales. We get some limited basic information from the franchisors or the sellers. And then when we have, someone like a client candidate interested, then that's when we inquire to get more specifics and information or connect you so that, you can do that yourself. What I can tell you, in being the one that picked out this resale opportunity, is that the franchisor is part of a very established brand with proven systems and a significant amount of franchisees that have a long track record of success. So that's what I can tell you, because we have this listed confidentially. I know what brand it is, so I can tell you that.
And I guess if I could add a couple things on here, home service businesses, as we've talked about many, many times, probably means relatively simple model, probably means run it out of your home, probably means manage it from your phone. There's probably lots of simplicities in these businesses compared to some others. I would say that about the home service brand as well. And keep in mind, and I think this is fair to say, that as a franchise, as somebody that was a franchise owner who did have a resale and selling our business, it's very important for the selling franchise owner to keep these things as confidential as possible, because he's got a staff of people. He may have people working for them, and you don't want to rock the boat. So it's not the reason these are not known to the public isn't because they're trying to hide anything. It's just, as a seller of the business, it's important to keep that stuff close to the vest until they find a legitimate buyer.
That's a great addition there. Yeah, super important. And guys, for something like this, by the way, I'm going to go out on a limb and make the assumption that this would need to be paid in cash. Again, it depends on if it is showing enough margin to support the debt payments, but just to be safe, if it isn't, I would say this would need to be something we need to be prepared to fund this outright and not be getting a loan. And at 150 grand, if you're buying a business, you should probably have that amount of money somewhere. You can use retirement account. You can use ROBS, which is what I mean by retirement account. You can use a home equity line of credit. If you have an investment portfolio that's non-qualified assets, meaning it's not in a retirement account, certain investment companies will allow you to take a loan out on the investments, called a liquidity access line. You got all sorts of different ways that you can fund it. So
also, and this happened when we sold our business, a really savvy buyer would ask the seller to maybe take a note and maybe finance some of that on the seller's responsibility. That's also another option. Maybe you pay $120,000 and you ask the seller to finance $30,000 over the next year to plus, which also allows the new buyer to make sure that the seller is still invested in the business. That's another opportunity there for you.
Yeah, that's great advice, Mark. There was guys, I need to start making a point of this at the beginning. If you guys have questions throughout this about anything that we're talking about or anything franchise related, let us know in the comments and we will answer your question or questions towards the end of the video. So happy to dive into that. Again, if you are interested in looking into our portfolio of resales that we have available, you can type that website domain in and go submit an inquiry and have a free meeting with our team. But let's move on. New franchise owner through Franchise Empire. So every week we celebrate a new franchise owner that became a business owner through our team at Franchise Empire. And our mission is to help individuals own a money-making franchise. And we do that through helping people find, vet, buy, and launch those franchise opportunities. And these are the moments to be celebrated because it's really exciting and cool. I remember when we signed our franchise agreement, I'm just like so proud, so excited, scared, terrified, all of it. But this one specifically is about Isaac. Mark, you want to tell us a little bit about Isaac? And do you remember who on the team worked with him?
I think Chris, if I'm not mistaken. But the other thing I'll say is, and this is a little feather in our franchise empire hat, which, excuse me, we do have the floor, so we can do this. We're presenting you a new candidate every week of franchise empires that had purchased franchises. So that means we've done at least 52 of these deals in a year because we're presenting a new one every week. So we're very, very good at helping people actually realize their goal because we have this whole portfolio of candidates to talk about. Just thought I'd put in a shameless plug there.
That's a good point.
So Isaac worked with one of our brokers, Chris, who we've mentioned before. And a few years ago, he did explore franchise opportunities in the pizza industry, but never quite found the right fit. And that's interesting. So many people come to us after failed attempts at franchising food. And in many cases, we say, thank God, because food isn't for everybody. But life moved on, but the desire to own his own franchise business never went away. Recently, ready to take the leap and build something on his own, he connected with us here at Franchise Empire, got introduced to Chris, who does an amazing job, to restart his journey. This time he had a little bit more clarity and focus. He got off his pedestal of forcing food on himself, and he was looking for, Chris did a great job of asking him what was important, and here's what came up. He was looking for a business that was an essential business, service-based, built for long-term success, something that would allow him to create real impact in his community while building a legacy for the future. So that's great information for our broker team. We can take that information and overlay it against our tremendous A+ list of preferred franchisors, and came back with Lime Painting, which is one of our painting companies. We think very highly of it. We love a lot about it. We introduced Isaac to Lime, and there, after a lot of work with, obviously Isaac does most of the work. Chris was there to support him. And actually, here's actually Chris's quote. Isaac came back into the process with the intention and clarity. He asked the right question, trusted the process, and found a brand that truly fits his goals. He now owns Lime Painting. He's officially on the path to ownership, this time with a plan, purpose, and the brand he believes in. So it's a real great lesson there, because so many people come to us, Tarek, thinking that they are, I want to invest in XYZ. And it's usually a lot of businesses that they see every day, McDonald's, Burger King, 7-Eleven, but they don't really know about the process. Then they get in touch with us here at Franchise Empire. We force them to answer really hard questions about themselves and what they're looking for. And here's a guy that a few years ago was going to buy a Domino's pizza franchise, and now he's the proud owner of a painting company. Couldn't be any different, but this is what's right for him, and I think he's going to do really, really well. And congratulations to Chris to stay on path with this guy. And I think I had a chance to meet Isaac at one of our Q&As, and he's tickled to death, and he really appreciates our process. So this could be anybody. Isaac is not any different than any of the candidates we work with every single day.
Yeah, great point, and well said. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, one of the most common mistakes and way people get exposed to franchising is you walk into a shop, right, or an ice cream place or dessert place or food place or something, and you're like, ooh, it smells good in here. The food tasted good. It was like, you get these endorphins running through your system, and you're like, we should own one of these. And I will tell you what, it's one of the franchise buying mistakes. It's one of the 14 franchise buying mistakes that we have listed in a document that we share with people. And guys, I am not immune. We'll still walk into a place and you see it's busy and you see this flood, and I'll still be like, oh wow, this, give my wife a look. But then it's like, all right, no, I know not to make this mistake. So it's hard not to get wrapped up into the excitement and endorphins overall. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I'm not a huge believer, Mark, I'm curious to your take on it. I think I know what your answer is going to be, but you have some billionaire entrepreneurs out there that say you should always follow your passion. You should never do a business you're not passionate about. I personally don't agree. I think you should have a level of belief about the product or service that you're offering, but to say that you have to be passionate about it, I don't know. I think there's more that we have to do in life that we are less passionate about, and that is mundane and requires discipline, than there is that we get to do of that we are passionate about.
I agree. I mean, I guess I would say it this way, what are entrepreneurs or potential franchise owner candidates interested in? The answer usually is working hard, running a very profitable business that they can pass on to their families or sell for large sums of money and provide a service that they feel that there's value in the community. That doesn't mean it has to be the prettiest girl on the block, so to speak, right? So it could be anything that can meet those criterias. And going back to what you just said about walking in and seeing it, I kind of call that, and I think I said that a couple of weeks ago. It's kind of like the shiny penny theory, right? Our grandson is not even a year old, and if you wave something that's really shiny, he'll drop everything and run to it because he sees it as a shiny penny. Well, you don't want to buy that shiny penny, because that shiny penny could be a knife for all you know, that's got a sharp edge. He can hurt himself on it. So again, I think it's great to go in and say, wow, this is an amazing business. But then I would say, I wonder if it's a successful franchise model. Maybe I should look into seeing if it is, but being open-minded to the fact that maybe it's not, maybe it hasn't reached a certain level. So again, I think people dive into their emotion, but I don't agree that you have to have a complete passion. I didn't have a passion for hamburgers when I got involved with Five Guys. I had a passion for finding a really good brand that I think gave us the support we needed, and that had the potential to give us the results and the goals financially that we were hoping as a partnership. But we weren't really thrilled about the burger business.
Yeah. Totally. I totally get it. Makes a lot of sense. I agree 100%. And I think, the last thing I'll add to that is, I think your first business, you should just make sure that it's a win as much as you can. So you do what could be more boring or just lower hanging fruit, whatever it is. Then you can always do something later. And I know this is going to be an unpopular take in the franchise world. I want to share it more often because I like sharing contrarian kind of views overall. And actually, Mark recently got feedback on one of the client feedback calls that I did recently from one of the guys. And it was someone who, we have a lot of clients that find us from content like this or on YouTube, but we run a lot of ads now. So we get clients who find us through an ad and don't know us from Adam.
Right.
And he said, the guy was like, I just think this is funny that I'm talking to you. And I saw you on a Facebook reel. And I was like, well, I'm just curious because this was a really, really savvy, sophisticated buyer that Chris had worked with. And I'm like, well, interesting. Like what? Well, he's like, I never submit my stuff for like Facebook ads or Instagram ads. I'm like, well, interesting. So what got your attention, or like, why did you follow through? I'm really curious. And he's like, well, you started out in the reel saying that 80% of franchises suck. And he's like, no one else was saying that. And so I was like, oh, that's funny. I mean, I'm just being genuine and authentic. And but I personally believe it's true. Here's another contrarian take, is that I think that franchising is a great gateway business. And that at the end of the day, you don't need to own the franchise for the rest of your life. You may never own it for the rest of your life. You may get in it. You may sell it after 5 years. And that gives you then either the confidence, the resources, the connections, or the experience to then go do something else on your own. Maybe you go launch another franchise. Maybe you don't. But sometimes people getting stuck on this all or nothing. Should I buy a franchise? Should I start my own thing? Should I buy a business? It's like, just follow the path that's for you right now. And then at some point, you'll probably do something different. Just like the house you bought, the first house you lived in, at some point, you probably sold that house and you probably moved in another one. Your very first job, you probably changed jobs. Your very first car, you probably changed cars. So that's kind of my take on it. I don't think people need to be a franchise owner for the rest of their life unless they want to.
I think it's a great point. And again, I would add, because I lived this myself, as I know you did. It's really helpful, and we work with our candidates all the time. What is the goal? What is your goal? What are you getting into this for? And again, there are several options, but when we signed up for our franchise agreement, our goal was to run this business hard and fast for 8 years and build it up really well. Be very determined to put every bit of profit back into the business to grow it, get our debt service down so that at the 9 and 10 year mark, we could sell this for quite a profit. That we knew our goal. We reverse engineered it, right? Our goal could have been at the end of 9 or 10 years, we wanted to buy out other franchises and double and triple our size. Or it could have been, I want to run this business for 10 years till my kids become old enough that they can take over the business. But knowing what that goal is really helpful in that upfront, figuring out how to get there. And Tarek, you're right. I don't think I know anybody who we got involved with at Five Guys back in 2005, 6, 7, a long time ago, but not one of the people that had a franchise in the area of Massachusetts where there were several franchise owners, not one of them owns that franchise today. But they're owned by people who bought us all out, and they have bigger, their goal was to get really big. So it's exactly, you're right. And sometimes people feel that way. However, I would say that you don't want to get into franchising if your model or your goals don't last at least 5 years, because sometimes it takes that long to build it. And if you're going into it with any other attitude that you're going to get rich quick, that's a slippery slope too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and like for us, I mean, I just knew at that specific moment in time, I had tried to start a bunch of businesses. They all failed, didn't work, and franchising was just a way for me to try to transition out of corporate America. And I mean, at the time, I was in banking. Banks that have 50,000 employees, so I'm one of 50,000 or of 1,000. And I didn't know that the future would be, franchise empire was in the future or anything like that. I was just basically operating off of that moment in time. So let's talk about Tropical Smoothie. So Tropical Smoothie is our franchise of the week. In this series, ladies and gentlemen, what we've been doing is breaking down the most popular franchises that are household names. So we're not like endorsing them. We thought it would be interesting to talk about them, understand their numbers, how much it costs to get them open, how much are their sales, how much are their franchisees making, and how they got started out. And we thought that, well, if we thought it was interesting, maybe you would too. So, Mark, have you ever eaten that a tropical smoothie, by the way?
I'm not a smoothie guy. I've been in them. I think I've ordered one. It's not me. It's not up my alley. But thank goodness for tropical smoothie, it is up the alley of a lot of other people. My wife, for example, likes the smoothies, but for me, I'm not a big fan of it. Doesn't mean it's not a great business. I'm just not a smoothie drinker.
Yeah, I hear you. So Tropical Smoothie started in 1997 in Destin, Florida, and what began as a laid-back smoothie bar in the Panhandle grew into a full, fast casual with a bright tropical vibe. Guys, I have a very interesting story I'm going to tell you about Tropical Smoothie as we get towards the end of showing the numbers. I want to get you the numbers sooner than later, so I don't want to hold you up, but it has to do with my entrepreneurial journey and how Tropical Smoothie played a part in it.
I was hoping you were going to share that, Tarek.
Nice. Yo, do you know that?
Well, I mean, you and I have talked about it. I know that your path kind of cross-section these type of businesses. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. By 1998, the first franchisee opened in Tallahassee. And within 2 years, the brand, by 1999, it had sandwiches and wraps in the menu, transforming from a smoothie bar into a balanced cafe concept, which I think was smart. It put them, it separated them from the competition, in my opinion, because most of the places are really just smoothie bars. Today, roughly 60% of their sales come from beverages, 40% from food. By the way, if you guys think Tropical Smoothie is healthy, then I have an oceanfront view to sell you in Wyoming. I don't know. The Wyoming doesn't have a
Yeah, it's the marketing is fantastic because the people really believe it is, but that's really funny.
guys, those smoothies have like 50, 60 grams of sugar, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, it's different if you're using like actual frozen fruit, but a lot of times there are some like syrups and juices added. It's really not as healthy as you think it is. Probably healthier than eating a cheeseburger. But
Yeah,
you know,
but not as much fun.
no. Yeah. Well, I guess it
I
depends.
guess.
I really like smoothies. I like cheeseburgers too.
I like cheeseburgers too.
After years of steady growth, the brand caught the attention of private equity firms. And in 2020, Levine Lichtman Capital Partners acquired Tropical Smoothie. And in April 2024, Blackstone purchased the brand in a deal worth nearly $2 billion. Guys, this is that, you know, we don't talk about it a lot, but there are two ways to make money in franchising. Number one is to become a franchisee. Number two is to become a franchisor. To become a franchisor is much harder, by the way.
Much harder.
You take on way more risk, way more headache, and the likelihood of you failing is higher as a franchisor. It's very, very difficult. But some of these franchisors that, you know, kind of do it right and get an element of luck and can build a big system where franchisees are making money, they can have crazy big exits, as you saw with Tropical Smoothie. And again, most smoothie franchises are not worth nearly that amount. So in 2024, Tropical Smoothie opened 161 stores, marking 13 years of same-store sales. Oh, they also had 13 years of same-store sales growth, which is an impressive streak of consistency and performance. Today, they have over 1,500 locations, with all but one being franchise-owned, like they're owned by a franchisee, and just one corporate location. Mark, what are your thoughts on that? Pretty interesting and impressive.
Yeah, very. The home run there is 13 consecutive years of same-store sales growth year over year. That's almost unheard of in these day and times. So that's amazing. That means through all the pandemic-related times regarding the everything about the economy, the franchise network added stores every year more than the year prior. I mean, that's like Five Guys stuff back in 06, 07, 08, 09 when we were doing the same thing then. But ultimately, that's going to come to a stop, but maybe not for a while. That's the thing that blows up for me. That's amazing. That means that the franchisees who own the 1,500 locations are building more units. That's a real sign of franchise success and a real good model. That's one of the first things you look at. Are other franchisees happy? And you're not buying and building more if you're not.
Yeah, true that. So I'll go over these numbers in just a second, but the quick story is when I was about 20 years old, I was working at the bank, my first corporate job at the bank, and there was a Tropical Smoothie across the street. And I used to go there for lunch and, you know, get a smoothie, sandwich, whatever. And there was a young guy behind the counter with like, you know, with some business attire on. And I learned after coming in a few times that this guy was the owner. And he looked really young. I mean, he looked like maybe he was late 20s, early 30s. And I just thought, I didn't know anything about franchising, how franchises worked. I was a 20-year-old kid. And it, you know, business wasn't as popular as it is nowadays and with YouTube and all that stuff. So I'm just thinking, how does this guy own this? And turned out he had like a government contracting job. I grew up in Virginia. Everyone's in government contracting in the military. And you know, there was a manager running the store. And I just thought, wow, how does this guy own this store? And I was just so curious. And I thought, wow, maybe one day I could own something like this. And that was really the initial seed that was planted for me. And then, you know, 7-8 years later, my first franchise wound up being a smoothie franchise, not with Tropical Smoothie, of course, But I still remember that story in that moment of the seed getting planted. So pretty
Very cool.
interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some of the numbers. So, Mark, the total investment is between $340,000 to $814,000 to get open. That's a giant range.
Yeah, that's an uncomfortable range for me, to be honest with you. I just don't understand how you build one of these for 340. Oh, by the way, it's either 340 or 814. Just way too much of a gap. I'd want to clarify that.
Yeah.
I would say it's more. I would say it's closer to 814.
I'm guessing so too, having seen the stores. And yeah, 340 I'm guessing is probably either a conversion or something that was a failed smoothie store before, or failed similar food business where you're able to come in and you don't have to do as much, which is common, by the way.
Yeah.
And if you guys are ever opening up a food business, something like that, it happened here. There was a Clean Juice that closed down. That's a failing brand, in my opinion. And an acai bowl place came in and took their spot. I'm guessing they didn't do any infrastructure wise. It's still the same setup, same counters, maybe some new equipment and branding. I can't imagine it cost them more than $100,000 to get that thing turned over. Franchise fee, $35,000, grand opening marketing contribution of $10,000. Multi-unit additional fee, $25,000 per unit. So you get a discounted $10,000 off. The royalty, 6%, which is pretty standard. I'd say maybe a little bit on the lower side. Sometimes they're around 7%. National marketing fee between 5% and 6% of gross sales. That seems pretty high. I haven't really seen a lot of like Tropical Smoothie commercials or billboards. Mark, what's your thoughts on that?
Just what you said. I think it's high. I'd want to dive in. What do you get in return for that 5 or 6%? Maybe it's a regional advertising thing. I don't know. But with 1,500 locations, you would think that they could do something on a national level. But I don't remember the last time I saw an advertisement from them. So what are you getting for that 5 to 6%? It might not be too much, but what are you getting in return?
I'm glad you phrased it like that, because that is, I remember making a video a long time ago, one of my, like the first kind of franchise videos. And yeah, people get so focused on cost. Like, what does something cost, as opposed to like, what's the value that I get in return for the cost of the thing? So it's like, yeah, it sounds high, but to Mark's point, like if you get a lot of value out of it, then the cost really becomes irrelevant if there's more value in proportion to the cost. So
Yeah, especially with marketing. I mean, I bang my head against the wall to try to tell people this all the time, but if you use the word marketing and cost in the same sentence, that's wrong. Marketing is an investment in your business. Marketing needs to be return an investment greater. If you spend $1,000 on marketing, end of the day, you should make more than that $1,000. That's why you're marketing. So it's not like buying spending money on cleaning supplies, which you're just buying and using, getting nothing back in return other than your clean floor. This is a return on your investment. So, boy, you should always be glad if they said we don't have any advertising, you don't have to pay any royalty fee. If you don't have to pay any national marketing fee, that would scare me off quicker than a higher number.
yeah, interesting. So their financial requirements is a $400,000 minimum net worth, $175,000 in liquid assets. You could see pretty clearly the correlation between liquid asset requirement and total investment, because typically, if you were to get an SBA loan, you need to put 20% down on average, and so that's $160,000 of the highest amount, and they require $175,000 of liquid assets. So the math checks out.
The math checks out. And again, as we say almost every week, I think the ideal model here is for somebody looking to do a lot more than one unit. I don't think this is a one unit deal. I think you're looking to buy a territory, an area. The fact that they're discounting the fees on the additional units says they're incenting that. So again, I don't really know. I mean, I'm sure there are one unit operators, but again, if your goal is to build and scale a larger business, you'd be looking at this on a bigger scale than that.
Yeah, totally agree. Let's go over some of the numbers, what you have been waiting for, financial data, and then let me just switch something here real quick. So financial data. By the way, it'd be very hard to find open territory for Tropical Smoothie because they have 1,500 locations open. So good luck, by the way.
Right.
All right. Average net revenues. And typically in my experience, because my franchisor used similar language, they called it net sales. Net sales was reducing revenue from sales tax, as well as discounts. Because technically the discounted amount is phantom revenue. It'll show up on your top line sales. So in case for someone not understanding what that means, let's say your profit and loss statement says you did $1 million in sales, but let's say you had an average discount rate of 10%, where people got a 10% discount on their food, whether from coupons, promotions. Your actual collected sales or net revenues would be $900,000, even though it says your sales are $1 million. So it's the numbers are deceptive that way, Mark. They can be in business, right? They can get tricky.
Yeah, they can. But the point of sale systems now are so strong and so amazing that most of them delineate that as a line item. So you can easily see it on the P&L, how much was sales and how much backed out on that. So again, they're making that easier, but you're absolutely right. And I don't know any food business that has zero in discounts and giveaways. No such thing.
Right. So their average net revenue, just over $1 million. And then you can see here just top 75%, 50. So let's jump to top 75%, 1.1 million average net revenue. Interesting. And the average of the top 10% is 1.7 million. So really, and the top 25%. So overall, in order to kind of meet the 2-to-1 sales to investment ratio, you overall need to be basically top 25% performer, depending upon how much it costs your location to build out. But I mean, pretty solid. I mean, if you're able to get it open for a good bit less than the 800K, if you could get it open for 600 grand, then all you got to do is be in the top 50% to match that 2-to-1 sales to investment ratio. I guess you could see why they have 1,500 locations, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, your goal should be, if you get in, the questions I would have asked, or I would recommend you ask, is what do the franchise owners do differently to make the top 10%? So that's where I'd want to be. That's my goal: get the top 10.
Yeah, 100%. So the bottom 10%, 516,000, bottom 25%, 613,000 on average, bottom 50%, 730, bottom 75%, 845,000. But still, the average sales are 1 million. They have so many stores producing over that amount that it still turns out to be the average, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That's it for Tropical Smoothie, guys. If you're thinking, well, Tropical Smoothie's not available in my area, or I don't want to own a food business because I don't want to deal with teenagers and calling out sick and asking to switch their schedules all the time, or being in a business that's open 363 days a year. Ask me how I know, ladies and gentlemen. Then and you're saying, hey, I'm curious about this whole franchising thing. I'd love to know what specific franchise opportunities are available in my area that align with my specific skill sets, my specific financial goals and lifestyle goals. Then you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. You'll be able to schedule a free meeting with our team, and they can have a conversation with you about that and see what is available in your area. Mark, anything that you'd like to add to that?
No, I think that's excellent. And again, food is really tough. Anything in the food business is a really tough business. Labor is really a challenge, and you're managing that labor every single day. So there's a lot of other alternatives to non-food opportunities, we would love to share and talk to you about. And, maybe you end up in food anyway, but you should at least look at some options and other things and see how other people who are not in food are doing really well as a franchisees.
Yeah, good point. And guys, this is why you'll see and hear about people that own food franchises that you'll often hear they own 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 locations, because you need to, with the lower margins and then the debt service, in order for it to make sense. Something I didn't understand when we signed up for our single unit of our one little smoothie shop. But Mark, you guys owned 13, restaurants and locations. So you guys clearly understood that it was going to take scalability to produce the financial returns that you guys were looking for.
Yeah. And you have to be very smart about how you invest your money and how you spend your money, right? So when you had one location or two locations, it was hard to justify bringing in a regional director of operations at 150,000 because you only had profit from 2 restaurants. But when you got up to 5 and you were making more money, then you could bring that person aboard. And ultimately, when we had 10, 12, 13 locations, you're spreading those fixed costs out on a per location basis, makes it a lot more palatable. So you just have to be smart and strategic as you're growing businesses. And again, the franchise that you choose should be guiding you and giving you some of that coaching as well. And if you use Franchise Empire, you can always call Tarek and I, because we've done it ourselves. So we're happy to give you that information free of charge, by the way.
Don't call me, but Mark will talk to you.
Don't call Tarek, but call me, please. I'm happy to take both the calls. The one for Tarek and the one for me. I know you
guys don't want to talk to me. Mark's the one with all the knowledge, anyways. So I'm just the face.
That's not really true, but we'll leave it at that for the time being. We don't have that much more time.
This is a funny thumbnail. I love this. Shout out to our marketing team, because that's
it's really good. I just don't know why your face and my face is in the same picture as the dog poop. It's something about that I don't quite understand. I'll have to ask Allie when I see her next.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Scoop dog poop for 200 grand. Guys, so this is a video breakdown where we talk about how we talk about our process of presenting brands to clients and how we narrow it down to 4 to 6 options. Actually, funny enough, right before this presentation, Mark and I were just kind of chatting about that overall. But one of the things we talked about in that video was just kind of a specific line that I think, was it you or was it Chris who said it? Was it Chris?
Which line are you speaking of?
It was when we were doing the sit down, recording, and someone said, would you pick up dog poop if it paid you 200 grand a year? Was it you or was it Chris? I can't remember who said it.
It sounds like Chris.
Okay.
Sounds like Chris.
Yeah. So that's this video, ladies and gentlemen. You can watch it on YouTube at our Franchise Empire YouTube channel. It's also on pretty much every podcast platform if you just want to listen to it. The second video is, I think we did one on Matt. Oh, this is our second. We did a redo of Snap-on. So it came out a second time, but Snap-on tools. And how much can you make with a $500,000 tool truck? We go over the cost, the sales, the fees. Surprisingly, this is one of our best performing videos. Again, it was the first time we posted it. We made some changes to it. And now about a month later, posted the changed video. And it was one of the highest performing. It was the #1 out of our most 10 recent videos. So it's so fascinating to me, Mark, that people love the whole tool truck concept, or maybe it's just because the demographic watching my channel is 90% men.
Yeah, I guess is that true about the demographics?
It's pretty close to it. Yeah, I think it's like 85% men.
So that might be your built-in answer. I don't want to analyze it any further. That could be why. I do have a comment though on the dog waste brand.
Yeah,
which is it kind of brings our process full circle. I'm going to be willing to bet you that any of our candidates who ultimately invest in a dog poop business don't come to us and say, my lifelong dream is to be owning a business where I can pick up people's dog poo. That's my life. So these people don't come in looking for that particular business, but if we do it right, if they share their information, if they talk about what their goals are, and that aligns with something that we know about, we can introduce them. So that's the beautiful story of how people end up in businesses that they never would have thought of in a million years. And the thing about dog waste is that's great is it's relatively, it's less competition than some of the other brands because nobody wants to do that. So very, very good brand. And again, I think a lot of candidates are starting to see the benefits of that. What they do say is I probably have to hire someone to do the work because I don't think I want to do it myself, which fair enough. If you can afford to hire someone else, that's always a good idea.
Yeah, 100%. Cool, guys. Well, we had fun doing this. Mark, thanks for joining. And we will see you next Monday, not at the same time. We'll be doing it at 12:30 Eastern next Monday. And then we'll continue on a regularly scheduled program after that.
Thanks,
All
Tara.
right, take care. Thanks, Mark. Bye.